Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Reverend Father, Principal of the school, Reverends, Sisters, dear students in the balcony and in the main hall, I have lost my words for the welcome you gave me, for the hospitality you showed, and for the tremendously nice song and cultural performance. I have also indeed lost my words for one particular gesture, that of the students of keeping with the traditions of India by showing respect, by bowing down to the feet of the elder. I was extremely touched. The younger ones should know, the older you get, the more value you attach to these traditions. And I'm very happy to see, Reverend Father, that your school is not only providing the students with education and learning futuristically, but also imbibing in them the good values of parental and elderly respect that are enshrined in the traditions of India. So, I am so very grateful for bringing me back to a tradition that we in this part of the world, in South Asia, cherish so very much. Reverends, sisters, dear students, had I known that I'll be coming to St. Peter's School, I would have asked my friend, good old friend, Mr. Gautam Sabarwal, and the leadership of Amar Ujala to have brought me to Agra much earlier. Much earlier. I wasn't aware. This will now be a repeated burden on them by me, keep asking them to take me back to Agra and to St. Peter's School. I'm very happy to be here among you. Very happy to be here among you. As you know, as Master Agarwal said in his statements and his eloquent remarks, I've also been a student in India. I did my college and I did my master's degree from Simla College, in the government college, and before that the SDP college, and then my master's degree from the Himachal Pradesh University in Simla. So I'm familiar with schools like St. Peter's. There were quite a few of them in Simla as well. But it's the first time that I attend a function in such a school. I know that for nearly 200 years, definitely more than 170 years, as the school is 172 years old, missionary schools, schools like St. Petersburg, St. Peter's School, have provided the youth of India with the best education, with high moral upbringing. And these schools, among others, have prepared the youngs of India for a better task of tomorrow. Every parent wishes his sons and daughters were in such schools. I am no exception. And I wish I could send my son to the school to study among you boys and be prepared for a better tomorrow. For I'm sure, your Reverend Father, that once he comes to such a school, your school, he will be ready for a better tomorrow and for service to humanity and his own country, as you have done for the students here. India, dear students, this address is directly to you. India is a rising star in the world. Its economy is going strong. Its power is showing. It's among the leading powers of the world. And with power, dear students, comes responsibilities. You today don't recognize this. But in a number of years from now, you will be the beacons of power in your country. You'll be holding the responsibilities that are on the shoulders of the generation today very soon in the near future. I remember myself, when I was in the Afghan resistance, the French government invited a few young ones to go and study photojournalism in France. As we arrived in Paris, at that time we were about 24, 25 years of age, we were taken straight to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of France, which they call Quai d'Orsay. There, as we stood in a line, we were about 14, 15 of us, a diplomat of the French Foreign Ministry came and told us, you are welcome to France, you will go to the finest school of journalism in France, you will learn your trade in journalism, but you should know, gentlemen, that soon the responsibilities of Afghanistan will be on your shoulders. This is the year 1986, 85, 86. And as we emerged out of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of France, a fellow friend of mine told me, did you hear the French diplomat telling us that we will be the leaders of the country very soon? How far this is. We will never be. Look at the state of our country. Look at the things going on. And I kind of agreed with him. I said, yes, well, us and leadership and Afghanistan with the Soviet forces there, how come? Dear students, very soon, within 5 years or 6 years of that, exactly 7 years of that, within 7 years of that, Afghanistan was free. We went back as the Mujahideen back to Kabul, and I was the deputy foreign minister of the country within 7 years of that, saying by the French diplomat. Within 10 years of that, from 1992 to 2002, I was the president of Afghanistan. The point here is, for you, dear students, to be ready for such a day where you inevitably are going to shoulder some responsibility of leadership for your country, your society, your family. Begins with family, begins with society, begins with community, and with the whole nation. The leaders of today in India, be it in politics, or in economy, or in the industry, or in sciences, or in academic fields, were all 20 years ago youngsters like yourself. But today, they are at the helms of leadership. But to reach that point, which you will, inevitably, the best prepared will be the best performing. The best prepared will be the best performing. My point here today is, work hard. Take every second of your time in class to prepare for such a tomorrow. And acquire and improve upon and cherish and put it inside of yourselves. Ingrain it in yourself to be a kind human being, a fine human being, respectful to friends, kind and jolly and happy with friends, respectful to parents and elders, to teachers especially, and be a productive member of the society. That will make you great individuals, and from those individuals will emerge a great society, and from that great society will emerge a great India. That is what you should be working for. I hope very much the same for my own country and for all other countries. And I hope that youth all over the world will be a generation that will usher in peace to the world and more prosperity to the world. I'm not going to go into politics today. I will not speak about Afghanistan relations with the world, relations with the United States, or all other things. But I'm going to say a few words about India-Afghanistan relations. Dear students, Afghanistan and India have civilizational links. We are one in nature, in habits, in social values, and in our civilizational links. In the more modern times, Afghanistan and India have been friends of a strategic depth kind. During my government, India was among the first countries in the world at the front line of assistance to Afghanistan. India traditionally is not a donor country, but India went out of its way to donate more than $2.5 billion of assistance to Afghanistan, especially in what I've just been calling upon you to adhere to. Better education. India was in the front line of providing Afghanistan's youth 1,000 scholarships a year, and thousands more came on their own to study in India. The result of which today is in Afghanistan, thousands and thousands and thousands of more educated youth in our country. In India did all it could to contribute to our upliftment economically, socially, politically. It built our new parliament building, housing the Senate and housing the National Assembly, and dams and electricity connections and much more in terms of clinics and schools that India delivered to our country. We in Afghanistan are grateful for that, and we in Afghanistan are committed to this friendship with India. And the spirit of that friendship today is visible among you. I express my gratitude and honor today, Reverend Father, to you, to the students, to the school, for having given me this immensely pleasant opportunity and heart-warming opportunity and touching opportunity to be here with you today, to see you today, to have heard you today, to have seen you perform your wonderful cultural performances and dances, and to have seen your good manners, your respect to guests and to elders, and to have seen that we must adhere to schools like St. Peter's School for our children, because that makes a change in them for the better. Thank you very much, Reverend. Very, very kind. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Clarence, please.
Sir, yesterday you were in a bit of a political mood, and I hope you left it yesterday there only.
Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday
yes.
evening. You were in a bit of a political mood.
Yes.
And you were not very. We have 10 students over here.
Yes.
Now, you were then in Simla.
Yes.
And as you said, one day you were walking through the Lucknow Bazaar.
Yes.
And you saw two ladies coming.
Yes.
And they were talking about the Soviet Union's attack upon Afghanistan.
Yes.
And you were a very fun-loving person, because when you were cannot place talking with your friend Mosul.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then he took you to Simla, and then you fell in love with Simla.
Oh yes.
And you said that you're not going to leave this place whether you get admission or no. And you did. You stayed there. And what was that one thing that made you take an about turn, forget Simla, and go back to Kabul? I think you went back to Pakistan.
It was to be part of the movement for the independence of Afghanistan. To work among and with other Afghans for the independence of our country, and that's why I went back to Afghanistan and was part of the resistance.
You just not say that there comes a time when you should always be ready, like you were very ready to, and you immediately became the president. There came a time that you made up your mind and you became the president. And we wanted our students also to be ready.
Yes.
Now,
yes,
sir,
yes.
Talking to many students over there, they have a very finicky thing about politics in India, because politics is run by people not with a very non-shady character.
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would give them, you see?
When I say to the students to be ready for leadership, that is not necessarily leadership in politics. It's the leadership of a school. It's the leadership of a manufacturing site. It's the leadership of economic enterprise. It's leadership in all walks of life. When we say leader, we immediately think of politics, but that's not right. You can be leaders and leading lots of other spheres of life. A great physician, a great surgeon, a great engineer in his field is the leader of that field. So when I say to be ready for leadership, is meant to be ready for leadership in all walks of life, which includes politics, which includes academics, which includes philosophy, which includes engineering, which includes sciences, which includes social services, which includes administrative services, which includes all that. And be a good leader at home too, with children and with society. That's what I meant.
We have some of soon. Good morning, sir. Some of soon of standard. Sir, India and Afghanistan both suffers from some same kind of problems, like poverty, corruption, widespread of illiteracy, civil war inside the country, external heat with the neighbors. Sir, in your tenure, how did you manage to tackle with all these situations? And what advice do you give to India on how to tackle?
Please, take your seat. My friend, India and Afghanistan, while sharing similarities, are at two very different stages of development. India, in terms of development and progress in economy, in education, in scientific enterprise, is far ahead of Afghanistan. India is among the leading economies of the world. India produced some of the best scientists of the world. And some of those best scientists of yours have also become the president of the country, President Abdul Kalam and others. So, in terms of development and general growth, India is far ahead. In terms of social conditions, we do have plenty of similarities. While India has grown immensely, there still is poverty, and the same case is in Afghanistan. In terms of unity of the two countries, as far as the people are concerned, both countries are luckily doing very, very well. In spite of the challenges that we face, mostly external, or the consequences of the past, the legacy of the British rule, and the legacy of the politics of that time, is still affecting us. Now, nation building and going to a society that is entirely peaceful, entirely stable, entirely well-to-do, entirely prosperous, is a human wish. If we go back to history, maybe we will find times that were better than today. But even in those times, it was relative to the time. So peace and stability and lack of corruption. These are questions that we will keep facing in our lives. We faced them in the past, we'll face them today. The important thing is to be able to keep trying to improve as an individual, as a group, as a community, and as a people. And that's what we should be, and that's exactly what's going on.
We have a question from Krishna.
Good morning, sir. I'm Sukhnari of last level. Sir, what are your views on India-Afghanistan relation in terms of political support, aid, and military support?
Well, sir, as I mentioned in my, please take your seat, please. As I mentioned in my remarks, briefly, India and Afghanistan have very old ties. We go back centuries together. It's exactly the same landmass and the same civilizational rise. But in more recent times, India and Afghanistan have had strategic interests because we faced similar challenges. Extremism and terrorism was one challenge that both of us faced, unfortunately from a neighbor. Both of us have the same neighborhood. And then the need for the two countries to be on the same platform on things, and for Afghanistan to benefit from India's progress and opportunities, and for India to be generous to give to Afghanistan what it has, which it has so generously done. So it's a vast ambit of relationships, it put in simple word, of things between us, India and Afghanistan, that binds us together, that makes us move together, and that makes us friends, and in the word of the Americans, buddies. So we are buddies, the two countries.
Thank you, sir. We have Karan. With your question.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I'm in charge of class 12 standard. Sir, recently we had missile attacks by the United States in the Middle East of Asia and Syria, and the Russian government also criticized it. In addition, the relation between other nations and the North Korea has been a threatening alarm to the global peace of the world. So, you are being a curator for world peace in your homeland and on world level as well. Sir, do you see these heightened tensions between the nations as a precursor to the Third World War? And if it is, what would be the stand of India and Afghanistan together in such a scenario?
Well, sir, let us very much hope and pray. Let us very much hope and pray that sanity will prevail, and that wisdom will prevail, and that kindness towards humanity will be the norm rather than the abuse of humanity. I told you of my years in similar very brief words. Those years which were my formative years, from 18 to 24, also saw me get into the values of India, also saw me study India's movement for independence, the national movement, and the inspiration and the values and the human love that Gandhiji inculcated during that struggle for independence, and on a larger scale to the whole of mankind, has deeply affected me, deeply. So I'm a pacifist in many ways, in a very armed world. I believe in peace. as very much against any temptation towards war, and let's adhere to Gandhian principles, and let's advise others too around the world that those are the best principles for them and for the rest. So let's avoid wars, and let's not even think about it. Let's do the other way around.
Good morning, Your Excellency. I am Hamid of Standard 12. Sir, in the recent years, Afghanistan has opened itself to more Western aid and influence. So what do you think are the positive and negative impacts of this influence? And sir, what is your personal opinion regarding this influence?
What's my personal opinion about?
This influence.
This influence. Well, you've asked a very right question here. You know, when I speak of the Western influences, I also get sentimental. So, but I'll cool down today. I will not go to my usual self here today. The Western way of life has offered mankind immense opportunities as well. There are massive leaps in science and technology. We can't ever deny. They produce so much to give to the rest of the world that has brought us comforts, medical science, engineering, airplanes, cars, iPhones, information technology is their creation mostly. They've also brought us immensely good political and social values, democracy, freedom of speech, freedom to reason has largely emerged from there. It is universal in nature, of course, but it was the Western societies that made it into institutions, Europeans and then the Americans. Human rights, in a way, though I have a different opinion on who observes it better, the human rights. So those are the values that they've brought, democracy and elections and all that, and systems of governance. They've also done something which is not good for us. The creation of the nation state is not an Eastern idea, it's a Western idea. They created the idea of the nation state. Nation state means a people with a border, with a constitution, with limitations of movement and all that. But they also created the European Union, the freedom of movements, and all of that. So, to Afghanistan, initially the Western arrival, the American arrival, heralded for us our liberation from a creeping invasion from a neighboring country and extremism. And the Afghan people joined hands, and tremendous opportunity was given to the Afghans to be freed and to be liberated, for which we are very grateful. But subsequent to that, also the democracy and democratic forms of government were what they also brought to us, to which unfortunately in practice they did not remain faithful with regard to us. They remain faithful to themselves with that, but not with regard to us. They don't remain faithful. So it's a mixture of good and the not so good. I think we in Eastern societies in South Asia have our own immense values that we can give to the rest of the world and genuinely give the rest of the world, which is respect to elders, respectful social relationships, not such a classified social order as they have in the West, which is of course eroding luckily in the West as well. So the influences have been positive, and they've also had a negative side. Well, this is a very important question. My advice to you would be, dear students, to think of all of us, the world, as being one, as was said by the Reverend in his remarks, as being one. And within that oneness as humanity, we have our different features and characteristics. And that within those characteristics, we live in bonds of respect and admiration with one another. So there is no difference indeed between us as humanity. Thank you.
I think we have Karturu over there. We have a few more questions.
Good morning, Your Excellency. I am Karturu from Sindh. Sir, we have often heard and read that you have an iconic style of dressing, and that has a peculiar aspect to it. You are the trendsetter of this clothing sensation in the whole world, and you have been a fashion icon in the whole world. So what suggestion would you give to our generations and other generations as well to dress fashionably with wisdom?
Yes. Well, I would ask the youngsters to really dress fashionably. Be smart, be good looking, do all you can to be presentable in a very good way. But that doesn't mean that you should spend a lot of time on it. That doesn't mean that you spend a lot of time on it. Be clean, be good, be presentable, be as you are. And dress as you please, but as you please within the context of the social acceptance of things. Mine was simply a traditional dress, which all nations have. And all nations have beautiful traditional dress. We just saw them here. The boys who presented the national dance, that was traditional dresses. They're beautiful. India has remarkably beautiful traditional dress. The sari is an extremely beautiful dress. And so is the shalwar kameez, a beautiful dress. And so are, for men, the dress that you wear, the dhoti and the kameez and all that. And the Chinese and the Japanese and the Europeans, if you go to Europe, within their societies, they also have their traditional dresses. The Russians and the Eastern Europeans. And when they wear those dresses, they really look very, very nice. So people look nice in their traditional dresses. But I will advise you to be open-minded about it. If someone wants to wear a suit, he is welcome. She is welcome. If someone wants to wear his or her traditional dress, very much welcome. And we must accept them all as they dress.
I was at this point that service.
Very important point. Being well dressed doesn't mean being expensively dressed. Doesn't mean at all. You can be well dressed with very, very modest expenditure and be well dressed. So, buying expensive things is not being well dressed.
I was at this point when I was in Shimla. I heard somewhere that he was very formally dressed throughout his college life. Wore suits and went to college. He did not go to the trend of his jeans and t-shirts and baggy kurtas or what, but he was always very well dressed. So I have a point over here. You see, we have global digital giants. That's the Facebook, the Googles, the Amazon and the Apple. They have almost $3 trillion. That's almost the economy of India. Now, what are your views on this social giants? And we cannot turn away from it. The youth, not only the youth, the young youth, the middle-aged youth, and even the elderly, are all caught into this social media. So, what advice you would give?
Well, it's inevitable now. It's like television that came, it's like radios before that came, it's like telephones, landline telephones that came. It's a means of communication, and the world is advancing in this rapidly. You cannot avoid it. You will have it, you must use it, but the use must be reasonable and must not take too much of your time and energy. It has to be needs-based use, not fun or wasteful way of using it. Within reason, is a means of communication, just like you in the past would need a telephone and dial a number and make a call. The same way you can use today the information technology as you need it, not beyond that.
Action person.
Morning, Your Excellency. I am Akshat Bansal of State. So, as you have spent a long time on the soils of this country, studying, and in other spheres of life as well, what is one inspirational thing you find in this nation that triggers you to revisit this nation again?
Inspirational. A tremendously inspirational aspect of my life in India was the overall inner peacefulness of India. You got my point? A tremendously inspirational aspect, a value that I took home with me back to Afghanistan was this inner peacefulness in India. Well, that's a tremendously important thing, and I'm sure it will remain to be as such.
Hamid.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I am Agra sir of class 12. Sir, education system in India education system in India was very inefficient at its independence. But sir, we have seen in the recent past, India has developed this education system to great heights. Sir, we have also observed the education changes in Afghanistan. Sir, this has increased the intellectuals in both the nations. Sir, but these intellectuals are not getting proper work according to their caliber. So, this has resulted in brain drain. So, sir, how the politicians of both the nations are planning to curb this brain drain?
I didn't get the last point. Brain drain. Oh, very important.
Moving on.
Very important. Very important. Please, sir. Please, sir. This comes to economic needs and patriotism. Those who think of themselves alone and are aspiring to more resources and wealth, or taken to leaving their homeland into better opportunities, or those who fall in circumstances that are not that make it difficult for them to stay within their own countries. They inevitably need to go somewhere else. Like in Afghanistan, wars and destructions caused that. This is one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it is that the brain drain that comes to you today, and a person of high learning and education and qualification goes abroad, learns more, earns more, may return one day with better knowledge, better skills, and better production. So brings it back. Also, for our societies, brain drain, if you call it that, can also mean the return of some resources to families of the person working abroad, which is mainly the case. If you ask my specific view, my own specific view, of course, we don't like our educated leaving for other countries. We want them to live within our countries and to contribute to their own countries and make life better, richer, more prosperous within their own societies. The politicians, I don't think, can do much else other than adopting laws. But then laws at times are not sufficient or enough or prohibitive enough to prevent brain drain. we must make our situations very generally in order for the brain drain not to occur.
I know we have a short of time. We have just time for one question. Pranab? Yeah.
Morning, sir. So this is Pranab Mahajan. So as we know, both the nations, India and Afghanistan, have high aspirations for the future of education sector.
Yes.
And are working tremendously hard. So what are the aims and basically ambitions of the Afghanistani youth? Because as we talk more about politics, we are leaving behind issues like education. So what are the aims of the youth of Afghanistan? Because somewhat we know about India.
The aims and objectives and desires and wishes of youth are the same all over the world. An Afghan youth thinks exactly like you would think here. To get a better education, to have a good environment, to be able to play sports, to be able to be with friends, to have a family, and not to fear, injury or harm, and to live in peace, and to aspire towards a better future. Now, some get the opportunity, some don't get the opportunity. It is our responsibility as a society and as governments to make sure that those who don't get the opportunity are provided the opportunity to learn and do better. I believe very much that governments can play a tremendously important role in making sure that that opportunity is available to as many as humanly possible within societies, and that's what we should be working for. Thank you.
जाने से पहले मैं चाहूँगा कि आप भी थोड़ा हिंदी में बात करें क्योंकि बिल्कुल बहुत खुश हो जाएंगे।
बहुत खुशी की बात है। मैं आप सबकी बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूँ। आपने इतना अच्छा स्वागत तो की बहुत अंदाज से कह रहा हूँ, किस अंदाज से इन्होंने स्वागत मोहब्बत से, इतनी प्यार के साथ, इतनी क्या कहते हैं स्माइल के साथ स्वागत की कभी नहीं भूलूंगा और ये खतरा हमेशा मेरे पास रहेगा। मैं इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में और पॉलिटिक्स में आपको एक गाना सुनाऊंगा। वो ये बाबूजी धीरे चलना, प्यार में जरा संभलना। बड़े तो के हिस्सा राह में समान please.